You're listening to the B&H Photography Podcast. For over 40 years, B&H has been the professional source for photography, video, audio, and more. For your favorite gear, news, and reviews, visit us at bnh.com or download the B&H app to your iPhone or Android device. Now here's your host, Alan Weitz.
At the 2016 OPTIC Imaging Conference, we were immersed in the riches of nature and travel photography. So many talented and distinguished photographers displaying their work and discussing their experiences in craft. We were fortunate to sit with several National Geographic photographers for informal yet intimate chats on subjects ranging from photographic influences to career decisions to shooting techniques and gear choices. This week's podcast presents excerpts from these conversations. We spoke on a variety of topics, but centered our talks on the shared and intertwining passions for travel and photography, and we ended each chat with the question, if you had to choose between photography and travel, which would it be? The answers might surprise you. First up was Ralph Lee Hopkins, renowned photographer and founder and director of the Expedition Photography Program for the National Geographic Lindblad Expeditions. Joined right now by Ralph Lee Hopkins, who just finished speaking and shared a lot of wonderful imagery with us and a lot of stories. And it's an interesting thing. One of the things we want to know, you've been doing this for like a million years now. For how long have you been actually shooting?
I have been, well, I didn't set out to be a photographer. I'm a geologist by training, but I've been shooting just about 30 years.
Okay. That's
and I
interesting.
started out 4x5, which you can't travel with.
What brought on the transition to photography?
Travel. so I started out, as I guess what grabbed me was the American Southwest, seeing the red rocks of Utah. And I just had to, I mean, it is a pun, but something clicked, man. I had to become a photographer. And if I was going to be a photographer, it had to be a real photographer. Sheet film, Ansel Adams, you know.
So when you said real photography, at that point, did you make a decision that you weren't going to shoot 35 specifically based on what you were shooting?
Well, I wanted the control.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I kept staring at Elliot Porter's work and all, you know, the 4x5 masters and saying, you know, how do they do that? And it was the, you know, the tilt shift. And so it wasn't as much a conscious decision, just that, man, I want a big camera. And then it turned out that it was an old Graflex Crown Graphic that got me going. It was $125 with a Schneider lens.
And did you have to learn from scratch at that point?
I had to learn from scratch. I literally had to open up the box of film and pull a piece out and look at it. Oh, yeah, here are these things. And I had this little Kodak, you know, how to shoot 4x5, 15-page book. And then drove down to Bryce Canyon. I was living in Utah at the time and started shooting. And I took about 50 shots, which was, I think, a box of 50 then was probably about $75, something like that, and I couldn't afford it. And one of them was good, and it got published. I'm like, oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
You've been to many places many times, I'm assuming. A lot of it's repeat, and obviously there's fresh things happening because it's a whole different set of environmental things going on as far as season and weather and this and that and the other thing. There's always the surprise of photography. Do you find yourself kind of like not looking forward to going to some places? And at the same time, I'm going to ask you, what place do you not get enough of?
This is a really interesting question because it's kind of what we were talking about before we started. You know, are the images the goal or is it the experience? And for me, and I think this comes with age as well, but it's the experience. And I think it always has been the experience getting out. I mean, of course, you want to get the shot. But in travel, and especially, I mean, I mostly go to places with nature. I go to the wild places, Antarctic, Galapagos, Baja, Alaska, you know, you name it. And I am lucky I get to go back, but you always see something new. There is always a surprise. There's always something you haven't seen before. You've seen that animal before, but never that kind of behavior, or it's in different light. And this is the thing about travel, you know, 30 years of travel, and the evolution of equipment. So I went from 4x5 to 645 to Nikon, then to Canon. And I'm ready for the next transition. Already it's the iPhone, but a smaller setup is coming. So going back to these places with better technology.
Yeah.
You know, places where I used to photograph at 50 ISO and we'd push it and get up to about 400 now. You know, I'm there shooting 3200, 6400, shooting in the dark, getting things that in those experienced times that you just couldn't have done on film. So it's been amazing to witness this. I think it's a very exciting time to be a photographer. but also a very exciting time to be a traveler because the world is open to us, and have this fleet of ships that I've been working with Limited Expeditions and National Geographic. And yes, it takes resources to buy a ticket on those ships. But if you want to see the world and learn about the world and then see Antarctica and care about Antarctica and see the changes our planet's going through, that's the way to do it. I work with Lindblad Expeditions, and we have a fleet right now of 6 ships plus our charter ships, and we're building 3 more coming out in the next 3 years. And these are small ships. These aren't the big cruise ships, and we don't even call them cruises. They're expeditions because we're going to have experiences. And so we have ships from 50 guests to 150 right now. Mm-hmm. And these are trips from anywhere from a week long to 3 weeks. Some of our longer ones going down south to Antarctica and up to the Arctic, where you really get time to explore. And you basically check in on the ship, you get your stateroom, you unpack, and now your hotel is traveling and taking you to these great places. We talk about the key to making better images is to get in front of more interesting things, stand in front of better stuff. Well, we take you there.
Can I ask what your setup is now? What you
I'm
shoot
still SLR Canon.
Okay.
So I'm 5D Mark III, 1DX, soon to be the 1DX2. My lenses have gotten smaller because the cameras are sharper. So whereas I used to have the 500 or the 600 with a 1.4. In many situations, I'll just be carrying the 100, the 400, and then get a sharp shot and crop. So I still have a heavy bag of gear, but all the colleagues, a lot of them are going to the smaller setups.
Yeah. How has shooting digital changed how you approach, or even what you photograph? I understand.
I take more. I mean, the one way to answer it is with digital rather than film, I'll shoot more frames of less subjects. So I've been there before and I've seen these other things. So now, I'm very interested in, the predation, let's say the gull that's coming down onto the penguins and trying to get the interactions. So it's made us freer. Mm-hmm. I mean, we were confined to that 36, and then you got around it because you'd have 2 cameras, and then but you'd still be changing film, and you'd work on those blocks. Remember when you used to shoot to 32, and then you had those 4 last shots, and you didn't want to miss. You're there. You don't want, as soon as you put your camera down, so you're much freer. So you have people, and they don't realize that before they come, and you tell them you need as many cards as you can bring, or a way to clean your cards and store the images, because on these expeditions you will shoot more images. It's contagious, one thing, right, when you're with a group of photographers, but then you're in this amazing environment that you may never be. It's the trip of a lifetime for many. And when's the next time you're going to be in front of a blue-footed booby? So you're just going to shoot the whole situation. And I think that's what digital has done for us. You can really shoot an entire situation up until the end, and it doesn't matter, like that sequence I showed in my talk, 1,200 shots of one leopard. Yep. But that was an amazing, just the experience of it, and watching and waiting and seeing what's happened. And then you can make a book out of that one experience, your own book. And that's what I also encourage our travelers. Every photographer should make their book. There's no reason not to now.
It gives completion to a project.
Sure.
Even if you're funding it yourself and you're paying for it and you're getting these boxes delivered and it's yours and you do the whole thing, it's a completion. It says, I finished this. This is what I did.
And you can only you could only make one, right? With the online printing, we're not talking even about a box of books.
Exactly. What do you find the most extreme client that you've ever worked in?
Well, heat is
the hardest to work in.
Is the hardest for me is humidity. So I would say. Actually, it's very recent. It would be last year going to Borneo. It is so hot and humid there. And so your camera can, let's say, it's hot and humid, and then you get a quick rain shower, and then your lenses fog up just from that humidity, just the change in temperature.
I know I once spent some time in the rainforest in Costa Rica, and I learned the first night, do not bring the camera gear into the cabin where it's air conditioned, because it'll take 2 hours for it to stop sweating the next morning.
Yeah, we have the same problem on the ship. So people hang there. We have hooks outside in the companionway so people's gear can not be in the air conditioning.
And no one's going to lift this stuff. It's not like in the middle of, hey, so you're all
great
on the
time
ship.
to upgrade, yeah.
That's an interesting point.
Well, my last question kind of gets back to the theme of the talk in general. If you had to give up traveling or photography, which would it be?
can I still have my iPhone?
Yes, you can still have your
No,
iPhone.
I would. Yeah, I would. Now, my answer would have been very different 5 or 8 years ago.
Oh, myself.
But I could let go of the photography now and just see places
see
and have
places.
experiences.
Okay, because that's what we're going to kind of theme the show about, this chicken or the egg. What comes first for travel photographers? Is it the traveling or the photography?
But you got to get to the point, and maybe this is the take home here. No matter what type of image making medium you're using, from your phone to a big SLR, you've got it to get beyond where it's about the camera. It's about your experience, and your camera can record it, and you don't have to think about it, and you can tweak it, and then it's about the experience.
All right.
All right,
Thanks
thank
very
you
much.
guys. Appreciate
Ralph
it.
Lee
it.
Hopkins,
That
thank you
was
so much for
And
joining
thanks
us today.
for-
Next, we sat with Nikon ambassador Vincent Versace. Back at OPTIC 2016 at the beautiful Hotel New Yorker in Midtown Manhattan, down the street from B&H Photo. And we are joined now by Vincent Versace, who is just spoken. You speak yet?
I have spoke.
You have spoken. You have spoken.
Yes, I have pontificated. I have discussed the concepts of chromatic grayscale. I have enlightened those that are in the dark with black and white.
Ooh,
yes.
I love it. We're going to be talking a lot about travel and everything else, but since you mentioned black and white, just a little thought that I had going through your work, you seem to have an easy transition between color and black and white, and you also seem to have a very easy transition between portrait and landscape. Where did you start?
You, young man.
No, you really like this guy, right?
No, I do. That's the first time someone's caught that.
Oh,
All right.
cool beans.
Okay, so I have a philosophy.
Yes.
You treat your portraits like landscapes, your landscapes like portraits. So you cross-pollinate the disciplines, and what happens is it makes it so that one inhabits the other. What is a tendency in my observation of people that do photography is they get into a groove because people like that. The groove becomes a rut, the rut becomes a grave, and then you forget about them. And so if you don't like change, you're going to like irrelevancy even less. So my whole way of approaching life is I'm a photographer. I play every note. I play every instrument in the orchestra. One of my best friends is a conductor, and he plays every instrument in the orchestra. And I just remember when we were going to grad school, he told me why he did it, which was to be able to play the instrument of the symphony, I need to be able to play all the component parts. So when I find something that is difficult for me to do, that's my new best friend. And so I think it's important to hop from one to the other because one thing inhabits the other. And as to the second question, which spot on, if I do say so myself, there is no difference between color and black and white in the digital world because RGB, equal values of red, green, and blue make gray. And if you approach photography using, and again, I'm an acolyte for this guy, Jay Maisel. He said light, gesture, and I'll show you, but you guys can't see. This is his description of it. Light, gesture, and color are the key components of any photograph. Light and color are obvious, but it's gesture that is most important. So gesture is
Let
what...
it be note that...
Yeah. So, but
Waiter, check, please.
yeah, check it. But gesture is the most important thing in a photograph.
Yeah.
And if the gesture is strong, then the image becomes something more. And when the color gets in the way, that's when it becomes a black and white image. You pull the color out. So they're the same thing. To get a great black and white photograph, you have to have a great color photograph. So hopping from one to the other is...
I've never heard it described that way, but that's
interesting.
great, yeah.
Now, do you shoot color and then if you feel that the image is better as monochrome, you convert it afterwards? Or do you go out and shoot color or shoot black and white?
I shoot color.
So
Sometimes it's a monochromatic grayscale, but I know everything is a color, full color RGB file.
Okay.
Because I have access to red, green, and blue channels, and what I can do is I can produce an image. In film, there's something called a tonal reproduction curve.
Yes.
To get a little geeky.
Yes.
And you bought different films based on different TRCs. In digital, what's beautiful about digital is impossible is merely an opinion. You know, it's like, can you do that? Oh, sure. You know, my opinion is yes. I can create image-specific tonal reproduction curves based off of control of the red, green, and blue channels that is then image structure specific. So I can put a TRC into a TRC into a TRC. And if you are into granularity, boy howdy, you have just gone to geek heaven. So yeah, digital affords me a much greater control of my chromatic grayscale images. So hopping from color to black and white, it's the same thing.
Good points. Good points. What kind of places do you like going to? If somebody came to you today and said, "We heard you speak and it's wonderful. We want you to just go somewhere and take pictures. We're going to pay you X amount of $1 million. Where do you want to go? Where would that be?"
Well, my idea of luxury accommodations is I get the two-man tent to myself. So I'm pretty game to go anywhere. I used to photograph for Eco Challenge, and just you name it, I've been there. And
what place did
Bhutan.
you step with? Where is this now?
I want to go to Bhutan.
Bhutan. Okay.
If you had to pick a place I've always wanted to go, I was supposed to go 4 times, and for whatever reason, all 4 times, something's happened where I haven't been able to go. But my current passion is Cuba. I've been there 8 times so far, 6 times in the last year, in a 1-year period.
You find a big change going on there now?
I
imagine the attitude's changing a lot there.
It's right on the verge of change. I've had the opportunity to experience this in Myanmar. I had photographed Myanmar since before the thawing of relations, when it was a pariah nation. Mm-hmm. And I didn't quite realize what I was witnessing. And then when I went to Cuba the first time and started to photograph it, I realized I was seeing a similar event that occurred in Burma happening in Cuba, and I want to photograph it. I have a project I'm working on called Turning the Last Page. And for Burma, it's turning the last page of the 19th century, and for Cuba, it's turning the last page of 1959. And what I want to do, what I hope to do, is I want to capture the moment of this innocence before it enters the 21st century. And that needs to be preserved, it needs to be recorded, it needs to be witnessed. And that record needs to exist. And, as to why me, why not?
Well, we asked somebody earlier, and somehow I don't think it applies as much here, but if you had to give up one or the other, would it be easy?
But to
travel or photography?
Travel.
You keep the photography.
That's like pulling my eyes out. It's like there's a saying in art, artists are artists because they can't do anything else. It's not like I'm not capable of doing other things. I just can't imagine doing something else. And so I photograph, plants and flowers around the house. I mean, look at Josef Sudek. Sudek basically did not leave his house, and he's one of the greatest photographers we've ever had.
We then spoke with travel and art photographer Brenda Tharp. So welcome. Nice of you to be here with us today. Travel photography, how'd you fall into that? What got you started? What was your bug in photography originally?
Well, when I was growing up, as a family, we didn't have a lot of money to do cruises and fancy trips, but Dad and Mom were adamant about getting us out to see what we could see. Uh-huh. So I grew up in New Jersey, and we would pile in the Ford Fairlane and travel up and down the eastern seaboard, which is a word you don't hear much, but that's what we called it back then. And we went to all these states, and we visited the Amish fairs, and we went down to the Smoky Mountains and Acadia and New York City and all that. And that's really when the travel bug got into me, because those were adventures.
Were you taking pictures back then?
Not when I was that young, but my father was. Uh-huh. And so it's his fault that I'm where I am today, and he's gone now, but he was the family photographer, and not just documenting us, but also documenting where we were, so we could all look at the slideshow later and say, ooh, and relive it.
Slideshow, yes. Okay.
And that was so special. So that's really kind of where the bug bit. And then I used to lust after the National Geographic and Life and all those magazines, and now you know how old I am. But those magazines were those adventures. I wanted those experiences. And the pictures resonated that. And so that's kind of where it grew. So that's how I started.
So where do you travel mostly? Do you go to certain destinations to shoot again and again, or do you just kind of shoot where you go?
A little bit of both, yeah. Because I lead photo tours, international photo tours, it's good business to go back to the same places. Yeah, because you go once and you've got pictures to help sell the next trip.
And you know all the cab drivers.
Yeah, and people are excited. They've seen what you've done.
Yes.
And also, if I put up the client's work as well in a gallery, they're like, ooh, that could be me. So, I go back several times to places for a couple of trips in a row, and then I'll take a break and I'll go to other new places.
Will you go by yourself initially to these places, or you?
Generally, I do, yeah.
Okay.
Unless I'm co-leading with somebody who's already been there. Like my first trip to Namibia, I hadn't been, but my co-leader had been 4 times. So that was okay that I hadn't been. So I brought the name. She brought all the experience of on the ground and knowing just how long it was going to take to go from A to B and, what we could and couldn't manage in a day. So it was perfect team. So, trip.
Does it improve your photography, teaching and interacting with?
Always, yeah. In fact, I think teachers, basically, a lot of us are saying the things that we also need to hear. Reminders. We all get stuck in ruts.
So much, yeah.
We find ourselves reaching plateaus, and we need to get beyond that. And so when I'm teaching students to push and try something different, that message is also for me.
You got to put up or shut up in that
That's
case.
right. Yes. Yeah,
But I agree with that, yeah. We saw you had a Sony with you, like a lot of people around here, but you also mentioned that you're not loyal to any one brand.
Well, I wouldn't say I'm not loyal. I believe that it's not the camera, it's the eye, it's your outlook that makes the difference of a good picture or not. The camera's a box, and so it's the tool that I use to express myself.
That's a good reminder, yeah.
Yeah, so I stayed with it for a while, but I went into the Fuji system for a while, and I dearly love it. It felt good in my hands. It was lightweight. It was like, oh, finally, my back has a break, That was great about it. But I wanted more. I wanted a bigger sensor. And it wasn't there yet, so I started shopping around. And then when Nikon had the sensor, the 36 megapixel, I was like, ooh. But rather than switch my whole kit, the Sony was the perfect answer because I can use all of my lenses. And so I'm hybrid right now, but I'm looking to probably switch out and go towards the Sony or a good mirrorless kit because I'm not getting any younger. No, it's just that traveling.
That topic's come up a lot also.
Yeah. But it's traveling lighter. You're more creative if you're not exhausted from schlepping.
Yeah.
So
yes.
Yeah.
You're just more
has its
creative.
toll.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Have you found that it changes your shooting?
No, it's not. It's not changing. I mean, and if anything, right now I have the Sony A7R II. And so it's great. And when the first image came up on my screen, I thought, I can count every leaf on the tree. This was like, yes, exciting. For travel photography, because I'm adapting with the Metabones adapter in this case, it's a little bit different. It's a little slower. It's not that fast instant that you want for that moment.
That's the price of being able to migrate all your lenses over.
Yeah. So because I've been doing the travel and documentary photography long enough that I'm good at anticipating the moment, I can be ready. But for the average person, they find they miss the moment because it's working out a little bit of a more lag time. Just a little. Now, I hear there's other adapters that are working in response to the Sony faster.
Absolutely.
So,
and that's going to change constantly.
Yeah.
A year from now, we're going to probably be having adapters that are just, maybe it's transparent to be going from one system to the next. You're not going to feel the sluggishness.
Right. And I wouldn't say that I feel it so much in my normal kit of lenses, but when I put on my long lens that I've got a 150 to 600, and when I put that on, that's when it's got trouble finding focus all the time, but I would expect it with that. It's just, it's different, and it's acceptable, but I don't use that lens. I mean, if I'm going to shoot wildlife, that's why I still have that Canon body. I put that long lens on the Canon.
It's fun. I have a Sony A7R II currently is my primary camera, and I'm using lenses from I think it's 4 different manufacturers, and I can honestly say that I do not have any autofocus issues whatsoever.
That's great.
Zero. That's because they're all manual focus.
Oh, well.
So this is all alien to me. Why you have these just buy manual focus lenses?
Well, and the thing is, I shoot manual when I'm doing landscape and nature.
Yeah.
But I do some travel photography in manual. But let's face it, if I was Cartier-Bresson, I wouldn't be here right now.
But when you say
Literally.
You mean we wouldn't be good enough for you?
That's right. But that pre-focus, I mean, that idea is great, and I love to challenge myself to do that. Sort of set it at f8. I know my working distance. Pick up the camera and shoot, and not have to be playing with autofocus. But.
Yeah, I know.
When you say travel photography, how do you define that? Is that when you're traveling, or a certain subject when you're traveling?
That's a
or
good point. For me, travel photography is about capturing that essence of place, and that can be when I'm traveling, like coming to New York. The pictures that I would make if I had time, walking around the streets right now.
Where's home for you?
Just north of San Francisco, Santa Rosa.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So the same thing. If I go to the city there, when I'm walking around with a camera, and I try to always just have my workhorse lens, the 24-105 is great because it's got that distance that I can work with for most things. And those pictures that I'll make are travel or street, which is not that different, really.
Right.
You're capturing moments of daily life in the life of New Yorkers versus Moroccans, but it's still, wherever you are, you're capturing sort of the essence. And what is that? It's different for everybody, but that's where the travel photography for me is about trying to tell a bit about the life and the culture of a place. So more often than not, it's the documentary foreign places. I could shoot a picture here, and would you know it was New York versus San Francisco? Maybe not. Depending on what I would include in the scene for story, you might be able to tell. But when we're so homogenized, like we don't, but if we were in Bhutan, you'd know it.
Well, I would
That's
say
another
if they were
place that's
smiling,
come up a lot.
Bhutan has come up.
Like the third or fourth time in 2 days.
Seriously?
Seriously.
Well, I've
said they
done
wanted to
3
go there.
trips there,
well.
and it's really
It was Vincent,
lovely.
right? Versace, who said that's the next place he really wants to go, or something.
Yes.
I think. Can I jump back to what I kind of brought up before, and about defining travel photography, because it incorporates a lot, and we're not just talking about the beautiful shot on the beach and like tourist photography, we can call it, because it is almost documentary photography. But how would you differentiate documentary photography and travel photography?
That's a good question.
That is a good question. And, with travel photography, it doesn't have to be all real National Geographic style documentary. It can certainly tell the story about a place, but I think that there's pictures beyond that documentary shot. For me, it's fun juxtapositions of signs or things that tell a story about where you are. It's the color of a place, the flavor of a place. I try when I go somewhere to sort of pick out the things that I think that that place is known for. And capture the food and capture the pictures of the bellhops and the taxi drivers and the real people of the place, and in a fun way, and engage with them. And so my editor wants me to write a travel book that is for the non-geographic photographer, because there's a lot of us that just want to make really pretty, beautiful pictures of a place and not necessarily have all of that story or documentary angle to it,
Do you have any travel plans, photo related, other than the tours for a project or something for this summer?
Yes.
Okay.
I've given myself a gift to actually take someone's workshop in the Dolomites, and I don't need the workshop part. Well, maybe I do. Who knows? We all need it, but it can't hurt. But she's done all the work to figure out where to be and when to be there over the past couple of years. So the luxury for me is to go on this without being a leader and a teacher, and to photograph for myself. And I have always wanted to get up into the Dolomites. And I could have done it and planned it all myself, but I've been too busy. I'm writing a book and I'm on deadline, and it's like, this isn't ever going to happen. So I just said, you know what? she's a rising photographer also, and she could use the support and the money, and so I did it.
Sure.
So that's where I'm going.
What's the book?
The book is Landscape and Nature Photography, ironically.
Makes
I
sense.
counter-proposed when she asked me to do it. I counter-proposed with a travel book. And it was interesting. I'll leave you with this idea. The editor said, well, she says, travel photography just doesn't sell as well as nature and landscape. And I said, really? And that's when she told me about this whole idea about the documentary. People think they're going to have to be as good as the National Geographic style to be a good travel photographer. So I came back and said, all right, I'll do the landscape nature book, but my next book for you is going to be on travel photography because I want to prove the point that you can go a different direction. And she said, you mean dumb it down for the rest of us? And I said, no, not dumbing it down, but just having fun with it. And being engaged with the people in such a way that your pictures come from that experience.
Sounds good.
Can I ask my go-to final? Do you guys mind?
Go for it.
If you had to give up one or the other, travel or photography, which is first? What do you love more?
Oh, gosh. You're serious? Would I give up travel or photography? I would give up travel. Because for me, there are photographs everywhere I look. Every one of you is a photograph. Every shadow on the wall here is a photograph. And I know that I could be happy making pictures right where I am. In fact, my most recent book was partnered with pro photographer Jed Manwaring. Give him a plug. But it's Extraordinary Everyday Seeing. And it's about finding the photographs right where you are. And so you don't have to travel more than 50 feet to do that. So I would give up the travel if I had to make a choice.
You don't have to.
Brenda, thank you so much for joining us today.
Brenda Tharp, thank you.
Pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
Next up, Jay Dickman. We are here with National Geographic photographer Jay Dickman, who's been nice enough to join us for a few minutes to talk about his work. I saw your presentation earlier, and it was really nice to see. It's one thing that I did pick up is that you've been doing this for a while. Yep. And you still seem to have that nice bit of enthusiasm about what you do and how you go about taking pictures. And I'm sure, like you mentioned, you get toasted sometimes of traveling, which can be tedious, but your pictures are alive, and the way you talk about them has that same energy that it's just solid. It's really, really good.
Well, thanks. Yeah, as I said in the talk, I still love what I get to do. Mm-hmm. And I still get that buzz when I pick up the camera. It's like electricity. And if that ever goes, I'm going to have to get a real job. And I'm not sure just what I'm going to do. But I was looking at those hot dog stands out on the street corner. I thought I could handle this.
We just saw a good humor truck go by.
Well, that may be
a 60s vintage, too.
Moving ice cream, how much better can you get?
It's wonderful.
I love that idea.
So let me ask you a question. I'll ask you a bunch of questions. You've traveled to a lot of corners of this planet. You've been a lot of places. What's one place that you are not going to get tired of?
Home.
Which is in Denver, correct?
Which is in Denver, Colorado. And when you get asked that question of what are your favorite places, which one rung your bell, what resonated with you, not trying to sound obnoxious, but it really comes down to you almost have to give a filter on that. Are you speaking culturally? Are you speaking landscape? Because I have places that if you ask about landscape, like it comes back like, oh my God, let me tell you about this place. The tepuis of southeast Venezuela, these huge mesas that stick up out of the rainforest. If you saw the Pixar Studios movie Up, do you remember that movie?
Yeah.
That was based on the tepuis, one of the most stunning places I've gone to. Extraordinarily remote, almost impossible to get to today because of the politics of Venezuela.
Right.
But it was just an astounding place. And that's one of the luxuries, like working with Geographic. I shot a book for them, part of a book for them years ago in the early 90s, and spent 6 weeks atop the tepuis and had essentially helicopter support for the entire time. So it is nice when someone else is funding your adventures and travel and giving you that ability to capture those images of that level that Geographic or other publications of that level want to publish and to share it. And it's just, I just never get tired of this business. It's just, it's a constant. I think that diorama going on before your camera, that living diorama is always changing. That's what I've always found is that challenge is the responsibility of the photographer to find that best image out of that particular moment. That's what I was saying in the talk too, that what I loved about the newspaper work that I used to do, it was so diverse, and I had to shoot 3 to 5 assignments a day, and the editors didn't want to hear I wasn't in the mood, I didn't feel creative. You had to produce, and as soon as that day was over, it was over, and you were on to the next thing. So that dynamic of working in that situation where it was a constant pressure, constant exposure, constant outputting images, and always trying to apply that thinking of there's going to be a best image out of that, I think helped me to become whatever I am as a photographer.
I don't know how many more people are going to have an opportunity to say that I just became a National Geographic photographer, and that has been the gold standard, and all of this is now changing.
It is changing, but I think there will always be a National Geographic out there. There'll be in printed form and or digital form. And it will always have that standard of this level of photography. They are the gold standard.
Yeah.
No one does what they do. No one gives you that commitment of time.
I know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that it used to be in the days of film that if you were shooting for National Geo, you were shooting Kodachrome.
It was whatever you wanted to shoot. Kodachrome was
okay.
Legendary. Yeah, it was. Everybody I think parallels Kodachrome with Geographic, which and I love shooting Kodachrome with them too. But then I also was shooting Fuji Velvia for years.
Okay.
I think Kodachrome was much more accurate to how it truly looked, but it had that Kodachrome shine and beauty and depth. But Velvia looked like how you remembered it looking. So the memory tends to accentuate all the way across the palette. Kodachrome was more accurate. Velvia was that memory of the image, and you look at it and go, wow, that's how I remember it. It was super saturated. It was not kind to people sometimes, complexions and all that. It was very contrasty. And the exposure value, Geographic always liked to get that really dense transparency. Sometimes you could almost look at it at the light and not see anything, and they think that's perfect. They want that information, and that's interesting that in the digital age, the idea of the prime exposure is actually a tiny bit overexposed, because you get more information in those highlights than you do in the shadows on a digital exposure.
Interesting. What are you shooting with these days as far as gear? What's your latest?
Well, I'm an Olympus-sponsored visionary photographer, and I signed on with them some years ago because they gave me their roadmap of where they were going, and it was going to be going to this small footprint, extremely high-quality camera that, to me, most resonated with what 35 millimeter photography was originally designed by in 1927 by Oscar Barnack, which is small, unobtrusive, packable, small format, extremely high quality. And my needs photographically are absolutely high quality for agency uses and geographic image collection and everything else. And this equipment produces it. And it goes back to what's the best camera to have. It's the one that's in your hands when you need it. I'm a heck of a lot more likely to have that really light camera body and lens with me. And most of my work is international. And if folks think there's a really hardcore drawn line about what international carry-on requirements are, I've got a bridge for sale too, because it really comes down to a gate agent. I do a lot of work with that in Africa, and a lot of those smaller airlines, you're not going to get that bag of equipment on. So your equipment goes under the plane, and you're opening yourself to potential damage on your equipment. So I'm carrying my entire Olympus gear on the plane with the 2 per telephotos and everything else in a bag that's small enough to get on these aircraft. But I'm also a real believer that the photographer gets to know their gear so well that it really gets out of the way. That you know it so that when you pick it up, you're just responding to the moment, to what's going on in that moment, that image in front of you, into what's going on cerebrally. The camera's a conduit to it, and that's all it serves as. One of the big tools in this, too, when you're photographing people, you have this wonderful tool built onto the camera called the monitor, that if you share your images with them, that can be a huge step in photographing people. You start creating a bond with them. And then I always tell people too, when you do that, get some form of address, email or otherwise. I was in Namibia and photographing a Maasai in a really remote village, and I was saying, well, I'd love to get this picture back to you. And she said, I'll give you my email address. But the point is, get the image to them. It's good karma, it pays forward, but also it's a good habit to get into, because then this will, and if you do that, then your opportunities to photograph people can be that much more gooder.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thank you.
That's great. Jay Dickman, thank you so much for stopping by.
Thanks for having me.
We then spoke with Katrin Eismann. We're here with Katrin Eismann, an old friend longtime friend of B&H Photo, and to anybody who's been in photography, should be a familiar name. Well-known photographer, author, instructor, Photoshop guru, and I've known you. I think I first met you about it's going on 20 years. First time we crossed paths.
I just asked, which version of Photoshop did we meet in? If you know it's a good relationship,
Beta.
it was before layers.
There you go. It's very, very, very good. Neat stuff. What have you been up to lately? Because you've had a real varied career so far. What are some of the latest projects that you've been working on?
Most recently, I've been organizing photo trips to Cuba.
Okay.
And through the School of Visual Arts with SVA Destinations, we've been taking small
that's right. I
groups.
should mention you are the chairman of the photo department.
I'm the chair of the Masters in Digital Photography program. at the
Okay,
School
I'm
of
an
Visual
alumnus. I go way back, SVA, so yes. We'll touch me. Neat. So I'm sorry, go ahead. Tell us.
So we're organizing, I'm starting to explore photo workshops. And I know everybody's doing it, but what we're doing is we're bringing in really good instructors that both know photography, the history of photography, the culture, and we're going down with very small groups, 12 people, 2 instructors.
For how long?
And for a week.
Okay.
But what sets us apart is when I travel, I want to travel really simple. So we stay in homes with families, eat breakfast there with them in the kitchen, away from the tourists, away from the hotels, no internet for a whole week. So nice.
Oh my, that is roughing it.
And it's
oh
a little,
God.
I know.
And is it all students, or is it
No,
anybody can-
last week, it's anybody from around the world.
Okay.
Last week we had Dave Giordano, who did all that work in Detroit. Gerald Cyrus went down. Really good photographers. I would love to just go to hang out with them. So
This is with students from SVA.
Yep,
This is
and
tied
students.
into that. And is that a new kind of a program for SVA?
It's very new. Well, because up until recently, you had to be an SVA alumni or student to participate, but now we can open it up to everybody.
Right.
And so it's people from 20 to 60. So it's just been really exciting. Obviously, everybody's going to Cuba. It's very exciting. It's photographic.
That country has come up in conversation a lot the past couple of days.
Yeah. And everybody's saying the same thing. I want to see it before it changes. And it is a beautiful time capsule. Mm-hmm. And what's great is the people can separate the governments from people, and which is really great.
Can I ask a question about Cuba? Because as Alan mentioned, it's coming up a lot. Everyone wants to go shoot there. How do you get away from the shots of old cars, cigar makers, and kids playing baseball?
And falling down buildings.
That's my question.
That's a very good question, too.
Yeah, well, because everybody goes down there with those preconceived notions. Mm-hmm. Of the cars and all that. And the first time I went, I was like, I'm not going to photograph cars. I won't. And yet I had to sort of walk down the street with covering my eyes because they're everywhere. And so what I decided to do was I'm going to photograph the cars the way I see them. Mm-hmm. So there was a lot of motion blur, shutter drag, and just really playful. I don't know anything about cars. Okay, 4 wheels,
and the
steering.
And this one. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now my husband grew up in Detroit, so he was like,
oh, okay.
Yeah, he knew them.
A motorhead. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So in a way, you have to say, I'm going to do it. Just do it. Get it out of your system. Because if you don't do it, it's going to you'll be verklempt. Mm-hmm. And it's you can't get it out of your system. So it's shoot it, but then look again.
Right.
And it's so seductive. The textures, the structure. It's gorgeous. But you have to understand that you are being seduced by this siren. And so I think the best way to get away from that is to get up early in the morning when the streets are empty, and just follow the light because it's really amazing down there.
What are your personal project? What's next? What are you looking forward to this summer? Are you have anything geared to the summer or to travel or?
I'll be going up to Michigan, up to Lake Huron. We have a small home there right on Lake Huron. So very small home, very large body of water.
And do you
So-
put the camera away for a month, or
Absolutely
you
not.
photograph all
No.
the time?
No, and it's interesting because, I mean, I'm always walking the same streets here in New York, Port Authority to SVA. And it's like, it's a real challenge. I'm always walking through going, find a picture, find a picture, find a
Yeah.
picture. I'm always looking. And so, no, I have to photograph every day. And I do that to show my students who say they're too busy. Oh, I don't have time. To do it because you become better because part of photography is a craft. And if you don't practice it, you get stuck. I notice if I don't pick up a certain camera, like in a month, I sort of have to get warm back
Reacquaint
up.
yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Where
get
was
to
that?
know it.
How was that? Etc.
And other than the obvious subject material, how does your photography change if you're out in the country on the lake?
Well, it's interesting because it's actually a very sparse landscape, right? Big lake, horizon. So what I actually concentrate there on is more the details, like the stones, the plants, the things that are dying, and it's more graphical. Because everybody can take pictures of the big lake, but it's
once or twice, and then
turn around, see what else is there. And so I like finding the things. I call myself I photograph the eclectic fine art that is overlooked. It's sort of what I do, and I like finding things that I think most people wouldn't value. So 2 weeks ago, I was taking a walk, and it happened. I found a goose egg, a fish tail, and rusty razors. And it was like, this is a weird punk band name. But I literally spent 2 hours building these little still lives on the sidewalks and on the manhole covers. You see people are sort of going around me.
Yeah.
They leave you alone when you do those things, I've
Yes.
noticed. They tend to stay away and leave you alone. Yes.
But for me, that was just so magical. It's like, this is perfect. And I can entertain myself with twigs.
You're a photographer, that's why.
Yep.
And same
fun.
cameras when you shoot here, when you shoot there, or
Oh, absolutely. I'm shooting all with the Sony. I've got the little point and shoot, the RX100 version 4. Mm-hmm. Now the 6300 with the focus on that is killer.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, that's it's ridiculous. And then when I travel to Africa or Germany, I'll use the A7R2. Yeah. So I'm a Sony artisan. Yes, but I'd like to say that I bought the equipment before they asked me.
of course, right?
Katrin, thank you so much for joining us
Katrin
today.
Eismann,
Thank you. It's
you
been a
very
Pleasure
much.
talking with you.
Thank you
you
very
very
much.
much.
We wrapped up with Chris Nicholson from National Parks at Night. We are now joined by Chris Nicholson of National Parks at Night.
He's got a great book over there, by the way, Photographing National Parks. Is that
Photographing national parks,
Yeah.
yes.
How long have you been at that, so far? Photographing. First of all, two things. How long have you been a photographer, and how long have you been photographing parks at night? It's two-parter.
Oh boy. Okay. I started in the 90s, and at that point, you could still make a living as a stock photographer.
I remember those days.
Don't you? Yeah,
Yes.
it's nice memories. So I started building up a catalog, thinking that this is what I'm going to do, and so I would travel and on my own dime and shoot the parks and shoot other stuff and all that. So that's how it started.
How often do you get to national parks now? I mean, let's say in the past year, are you still regularly visiting and shooting?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, that's one of the great side effects of this is it's given me opportunities to go more than I even used to.
Awesome.
Doing
For hire now? Now
yeah,
is it for hire?
doing the workshops, and I've got other projects, other national park related, writing projects related to national park photography.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so
Which means you
it's
could
been
write
great.
off all of these things you love doing at the end of the
Exactly.
year without having to worry, they're going to catch me. No, it's legit. You're actually doing
Yeah,
great stuff.
Yeah.
It's very, very
and,
good.
And it's allowed. I said in the 90s it was all about let's create a catalog so I could become a stock photographer, and when that
Well, that market changed.
wasn't possible anymore, I said, well, how do I legitimately make this? How do I make this legitimate business again? And now it is. And now I found a way to still go back and do that kind of photography that I love so much, and make it part of the business again instead of.
Where are you
just,
going next?
So we've got the conference ends on Wednesday, and I am in the car to Cuyahoga Valley National Park
In
in Ohio. Yeah, it's funny. Cuyahoga Valley Most people have the look on your face that the listeners can't see that says Cuyahoga Valley. Most people have never heard of it, but it's one of the, I think last year it was number 11 on the list for visitation. And it's because in Ohio, it's an incredibly popular park.
Yeah.
It's, like the place to go, for camping for the weekend or.
I'm really curious to see this shot. To see this series. Yeah. I've never been there, but I grew up in Cleveland, so, and
My son lives in Columbus, so another.
So there you go.
That's great. That's great. How long are you going to spend there?
This time I'll be there for 4 days, and then I believe I'll be back in the fall.
And do you just take it
tentative.
as, like, you want a blank slate when you get there? Do you want to just kind of figure it out yourself and find the best spots and find your shots? Or do you have an agenda that you're planning and what you need to shoot?
Kind of in the middle.
Yeah.
And it's something I talk about in my presentations a lot, that I think, it can be a lot of fun to just go someplace new and see what happens, But if you're there for photography, that's not really the best approach, because you end up wasting a lot of time on the opportunities that aren't there. So I'm always researching, especially if it's someplace new. But even if it's a place I've been to 10 times, I'm still researching. I'm still seeing what other people are saying about it and what other people are shooting. Maybe they found a spot or an idea I hadn't thought about before. I always research, and I give myself a shot list and. Ideas for if it's foggy, let's try this. If it's a great sunrise, let's try this. Just to give myself an outline. Now, I don't have to follow it. As I said, the real answer's in the middle. And an example that always sticks in my head is a few years ago, I was in the Everglades, and I had a plan for the morning. I was going to go to the Anhinga Trail and photograph the birds in the nice warm morning light. And on the way, I saw fog rolling in right before sunrise. And if you've ever been to the Everglades, you know how hard it is to shoot landscapes there because everything's so flat. And I said, fog, sunrise, now I can do some landscape work. And I stopped. I abandoned the plan. Yeah. I think you have to be open to serendipity.
You have to turn on a dime sometimes just to get good stuff.
Yeah. So have an outline, have a structure, something to guide your work, but be ready to abandon it when something better comes along.
Are you always ready for sunrise, or do you sometimes sleep in?
It's hard when you're doing night photography to be ready for sunrise.
Usually that means the end of the day. If the sun's coming up, that's game over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
People are starting their day mode, but you're ending your day then.
Ending the day, yeah. It's hard to combine them, but usually, yes.
Yeah.
And then there's mornings I don't want to get up, and then I say, no, this is why I'm here.
Right.
Exactly.
I mean, that's half the best light of the day, and I can sleep when I get home.
Mm-hmm.
And what's your current gear choices?
I was just going to ask that. Yeah.
Gear. I shoot with Nikon. Always using a tripod. I use a Gitzo tripod.
Which Nikon?
Right now, I'm still shooting D3S right now, which I love that camera.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny that even that camera, NPS put it in my hands a couple years ago, and I got to buy it. I used it for a couple days at the U.S. Open, and I said I got to buy this camera.
That camera's had a great run.
It.
It's one of the highlights. People love that camera.
And nice Nikon Professional Services, right?
Yeah, every now and then you got some camera that's just special. I remember the N90S used to be like that.
Yes,
in
that's
the film
correct.
days.
Yep.
It was not the flagship, and I remember even an NPS rep telling me at the time, he said, "Why aren't you using the F5?" And I told him, and he said, "You know what?
Go for it.
The N90S is a great camera." He said,
I felt beat because I had the N90.
Yeah.
And I got it just before the S came out, and that really did tweak the 90 to a point where it was great camera. Fit in the hand beautifully, responded beautifully, was reliable, and it's the same thing. It was I liked that camera.
Yeah, it was a beautiful camera.
I still have that one sitting around the house somewhere.
Yeah. Well, I eventually did get the F5, and I have that sitting in my house. It's funny because we just moved, and I put it up. I put one of my F5s on the shelf with my photo books and stuff. I'm like, it was just a crazy idea that I once spent $2,000 on this camera that's now a shelf ornament.
Right. We all have a few of those, right?
Yeah.
And what about lenses? What's your
lenses? I shoot all Nikon lenses.
Zoom, prime? What do you?
Mostly zoom.
Interesting.
Yeah. I've got the. You know what prime I love though is the 105 macro.
Yes.
And I remember that I first bought it. I want to say 15, 18 years ago, and I tried to buy it used, and nobody was selling a used 105, and I was frustrated. I was like, I got to buy a new one, fine. And now I get it. Nobody sells the lens because it's just such an amazing. It's such a sharp lens, and it's very versatile. It's a macro, but it's a great portrait lens. And, short telephoto for landscapes.
I have an older vintage, the 200 macro, and I love that. The fact that you can it's long, you got that compression, and you can keep getting closer. And the 105 has that same quality. It's got that little thing where a lot of 100, 105s, you just want, they don't let you get close enough, but the macro just lets you slip in a little bit more.
Right.
And the resolving power is great.
Yeah, and it's crystal clear.
Yes.
It's one of their best accomplishments, I think, that lens. Right.
So let's wrap it up with this. I know your work is not strictly travel photography, but you obviously are traveling a lot, and we're going to release this during our travel week campaign, whatever you want to call it. So the question, as I mentioned earlier, is pretty simple. If you had to give up photography or you had to give up traveling, what do you love more? What would you give up?
I had to give one up. It's a hard question.
Or if you had to only do one.
If I had to only do one, I think I'd have to do photography.
All right.
Because I think I would go crazy without the creative outlet.
Yeah.
But here's my caveat. Before you make me do this, I want to move to a national park.
There you go.
If I call Yellowstone home, I don't have to travel to shoot it.
I like good attitude.
Best answer yet. Yeah, totally.
That's it. You nailed it. Okay.
Great.
Our time at the 2016 OPTIC Conference was memorable, and we encourage anyone with an interest in nature, wildlife, and travel photography to consider participating in the 2017 conference. And we will find time to revisit our conversations from OPTIC in future episodes, including our talks with Flip Nicklin, Ira Block, Erica Larson, and Stephen Mallon. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and be sure to leave us a review on iTunes. On behalf of John, Jason, and myself, thank you so much for joining us.